Good evening, and thank you for joining us. It's, of course, more than halfway through what can only be described as a marathon election. I'm with the team at Quint right now. We sit down once a week and digest all of the various things that are happening in our political arena, and there's a lot, which is why we're here saying hello and good evening to everyone who's joining us live as well. But first, let me just introduce who I have on the show. As as always, I have the team from Quint, and today we're going to talk about a couple of things. We're going to talk about whether Arvind Kejriwal's bail and the fact that he's back out campaigning is a game changer right now in this election. We're going to talk about the Prime Minister perhaps rolling back a few things that he said in his election campaign and what that really means. And we'll also talk about Mumbai and Maharashtra, which portions of which go to vote on Monday next, and what that's like. Ishwar from Quint has been traveling through Maharashtra and Mumbai, and of course, we have Quint's. We have Aditya Menon, who's Quint's political editor, join us as well. Good evening, both of you. Are you starting to get exhausted by now, or is the election fervor still, full tilt? Aditya?
Oh, really? And I just can't wait for it to get over and catch up breath. I think all of us are pretty
Yeah,
tired. Really
it's
admire the politicians, what they are putting in action.
actually, I was wondering about that because there's heat wave. Most parts of North India, well above 40 degrees. These politicians are not. Let's say they're not young, right? They're in their 60s and their 70s, traveling extensively, constantly addressing speeches and rallies out in the heat, including the Prime Minister, who's been at it now for a while, nearly 2 months every day. But really, the game changer, the question that I've meant to ask you, Aditya, is Kejriwal. Kejriwal, of course, being out and now campaigning, and he said a lot of things since he's been released from jail. Do you see this as a game changer, at least in Delhi?
It is significant. Kejriwal is a very, very strong campaigner, very strong communicator. There is a sizable degree of sympathy for Mr. Kejriwal. So it has certainly energized the India Alliance campaign in Delhi. Now, whether it will make a difference in terms of seats, we can't say because BJP won all 7 seats with very huge margins last time.
Yeah.
And even if you add the entire AAP and Congress votes from last time, BJP still has a lead over them. So they need a very sizable swing to convert even 2 seats in Delhi. There is a huge task Mr. Kejriwal has. He will be addressing a number of rallies for both AAP and Congress candidates. Significantly, tomorrow he will be campaigning for Congress candidates like Kanhaiya Kumar, JP Agarwal in Chandni Chowk, and Udit Raj in Northwest Delhi. So that will be really interesting to see how Kejriwal's campaigns for Congress candidates, how AAP and Congress workers work together. So really crucial time here in Delhi.
Well, we could have done the mathematics from last year's seat share to this year's, vote share and stuff like that from, 2019 to now. But the arrest of Arvind Kejriwal has sort of changed the conversation, right? From what I understand, he's dominating the conversation in Delhi right now, and he's staying in the headlines. But so do you expect that to continue?
He will stay in the headlines. You can't keep someone like Mr. Kejriwal outside, away from the headlines because he'll keep making some statements. The BJP will attack him on something or the other. But the strange part about Delhi is this is a city which likes both Arvind Kejriwal and Narendra Modi. And even now, when you talk to people, we will find people who like both of them. So they are upset with Kejriwal's arrest and yet are voting for Modi. So some of it's not uncommon to find people like that as well. And the same people say that while we are voting for Modi now, we will vote for Kejriwal when he stands for CM again next year. So people, are having these contradictory thoughts within themselves. So it's a very difficult state to predict right now.
Also, I must ask you about the Swati Malal, incident that everybody is talking about. Where, for our audience who doesn't know, there was an accusation that one of Kejriwal's assistants, has actually assaulted Swati Malal in the Chief Minister's residence when she went to meet him. She hasn't personally spoken to the press in any way, but Sanjay Singh of the Aam Aadmi Party has come out and confirmed that such a thing did in fact happen. What do we know, Aditya, about this incident?
I think it's important to know the two people involved in this entire
Yeah.
incident. Vibhav Kumar, I remember when I was reporting on the Anna agitation, India Against Corruption agitation in 2010-11, Vibhav Kumar used to hand out press releases for the agitation. And he's grown from a volunteer to now Mr. Kejriwal's OSD, who basically controls access to Mr. Kejriwal. Similarly, Swati Maliwal and her husband Naveen Jahind were also among the earliest Anna agitation volunteers. So it's kind of a clash between two sets of old volunteers. I think what we do know for sure, based on Mr. Singh's statement, is that Vibhav Kumar misbehaved with Swati Maliwal. So the party is standing by Swati Maliwal in that entire incident. Whether Vibhav Kumar had the backing of Mr. Kejriwal, as the BJP is alleging, I saw BJP spokesperson Manjinder Sirsa's allegation that Vibhav Kumar misbehaved or even attacked Swati Maliwal at Mr. Kejriwal's behest. Aam Aadmi Party is not saying that. They are saying Vibhav Kumar misbehaved on his own accord. So I think there's a difference of opinion there. Swati Maliwal has not spoken on that issue at all. I think so far she seems to be within the Aam Aadmi Party fold itself, and I think that if if her silence is any indication, she might just be satisfied at if action is taken against Vibhav Kumar. So this is where this entire issue is at.
Right. So just for our audience on the chat window as well, Sanjay Singh has in fact confirmed that there was an incident that took place. Remember, the whole thing came up because apparently somebody called the Delhi police control room and said that they had been assaulted. Then that someone called back saying, I am Swati Maliwal. And after that, there was no formal complaint that was registered. But the BJP candidates found out about it and then they picked it up in the news. Now there is a clear confirmation from the Aam Aadmi Party that such a thing had in fact happened. And the Aam Aadmi Party has said that the Chief Minister is looking into it and that he will take necessary action. So that's a story we're going to keep an eye on. But like I said, the fact that Swati Maliwal has not personally said anything, and she's a fairly media-friendly individual. She tends to speak to the media a lot. So we're going to wait to hear from her as well as to what exactly happened and what she hopes will be done. About that. But Aditya, do you expect that case to hurt the Aam Aadmi Party, to make an impact in any way?
Unlikely. I think it will just become a talking point in the war of words between BJP and Aam Aadmi Party. I don't see any public traction unless Swati Maliwal herself comes out and says that Vibhav Kumar did attack her at Mr. Kejriwal's behest. Unless she makes a direct allegation herself against Mr. Kejriwal, it's unlikely that this is going to lead anywhere.
Yeah. Let me bring in Ishwar into the conversation, who's been traveling through Maharashtra and Mumbai. Ishwar, the hoarding collapse, and I was just reading information about it, in a city that's going to vote in less than a week, that is constantly reminded about how, and I live in Mumbai, how little our lives are worth to the people who run this city. Because corruption always gets a higher priority over people's lives in the city of Mumbai. That's just the truth. It's been the truth for many years. But what are you picking up on the ground when you travel around Maharashtra, around Mumbai? Because it's a little confusing about which party who belongs to, and do citizens at least know the difference that the Gadi is not Sharad Pawar anymore and the Dhanush is not Uddhav Thackeray anymore? Has that message gone through? You're on mute, Ishwar. You'll have to unmute yourself.
Apologies. Well, being somebody born and brought up in Mumbai, I completely agree with your point that we always, are given this encouragement of the so-called spirit of Mumbai, so that all the corruption, everything gets brushed under the carpet with how the authorities work, with how the civic bodies work. I mean, everybody's been blaming the BMC for whatever happened with the hoarding collapse, but not many are realizing that it's been over 2 years that the BMC has not had an election. So that is the state of the city. And what's more unfortunate is that when you speak to people on the ground, the issue that you tend to pick up this election, at least for Mumbai and Maharashtra, is more about party versus party. Whose party, kaun si party ki hai. So you speak to people about what is the issue that you're voting on in a city like Mumbai, which is one of the highest tax-paying cities of the country, which has one of the richest civic bodies in Asia and across the world. People do not really vote on issues immediate anymore. It's all about the candidate. It's all about who they want to put in power in Delhi. Mumbai North, for example, is going to see Mr. Piyush Goyal contesting his first Lok Sabha election. And that is a seat which is a safe BJP seat. Mr. Gopal Shetty has never lost the seat. The BJP has never lost that seat in the past so many decades. So it is more about that. It is not really about the issues of Mumbai that really matter. You travel across Mumbai, there is construction everywhere. I mean, there is traffic everywhere. There is construction everywhere. Either it's metro, either it's a new flyover. Yes, it's development and work happening as they call it, but since times immemorial, I think the construction has been going on in the city and the public is inconvenienced. To give you a very interesting anecdote, I was speaking to one of the auto drivers in Bombay, and he mentioned how the earnings have reduced per day because it takes so long to reach from one place to the other now with traffic. So their income has really got affected.
Yes.
So it eventually leads you to the question, who is the development for? Who is it really benefiting in the immediate run? In the long run, it might be a different story, but on the immediate basis, how is it going to affect? But on the larger, drawing board, when we look at Mumbai, it's mostly about Shiv Sena versus Shiv Sena. NCP has a lesser presence in a place like Mumbai, but it is going to be a prestige battle for the two Shiv Senas for sure. And BJP, in fact, which has been trying to get an upper hand in the city. We have seen how it has infiltrated it has managed to win the BMC elections across in the previous one that had happened. It won almost half of the seats. So,
But is it more about, and here's the interesting thing for me, right? Is it about the Prime Minister Modi or not the Prime Minister Modi? Or is it about, do we want Piyush Goyal? Oh, Poonam Mahajan didn't get a ticket. Who is your candidate from your particular constituency? Is the actual candidate making a difference at this point? Or is it really, do I want Modi to come back for a third term?
For the BJP, it has mostly been about campaigning on those lines that it is going to be Prime Minister Modi you put in the center. But at the same time, there has been a lot of conversation around the issues of the city that the politicians have tried to cash in on. For example, the Mahayuti's entire agenda or the narrative that is being driven is that we got work done. Nothing was done when Uttara was the Chief Minister for 2.5 years. If you listen to Mr. Shinde's speeches, there is almost a repetition of I carry 2 pens in my pocket to sign files, and that is how the work is getting done in the city. That's the narrative that's being driven. Even with the metro and metro construction, we saw in January how the Prime Minister inaugurated the phase of the Mumbai metro, because that is also really one of the prestige projects. The Atal Setu's inauguration also happened a few months ago. So the development agenda is very much there. The narrative that the Mahayuti is driving is that, the Mumbai city deserves better, so we are giving you what it deserves.
It was very interesting also. Kirit Somaya put out a statement about the hoarding collapse that killed 16 people, blaming Uddhav Thackeray, saying Uddhav Thackeray and his son have the blood of these 16 people on their hands. Aditya Menon, I saw a really interesting account on Twitter from someone who had voted in Pune, who said there were people who came out saying, I voted for Sharad Pawar, but they had actually stamped the Gadi, not realizing that it's now Ajit Pawar, who is a separate party, effectively voting NDA, and not, say, UP or not India Alliance. Do you think that that split and the fact that both symbols have gone to the NDA parties will actually work in their favor in Maharashtra?
I think so. I think you should have a better idea on how it's playing out in the ground, especially how the NCP split has been particularly confusing. But no doubt, I think ensuring that the symbol reaches all the voters in their constituency is going to be the biggest challenge for both the Shiv Sena and the NCP. Ishwar, you had a report from Baramati on the confusion within the NCP, right?
Yes. So if you travel across Baramati, which is the Pawar families, which has been the Pawar family stuff, it was a very, very fierce battle. For the first time, interestingly, I met 2 brothers. One was campaigning for Supriya and one was campaigning for Sunetra Pawar. So it was a very interesting conversation to have with them. One said that, whatever development has happened in Baramati, it is because of Ajit Pawar, while the person supporting Supriya said that, but it was Sharad Pawar who started all of this. Ajit Pawar would have been nowhere if Sharad Pawar wouldn't have given him a free hand. Ajit Pawar's camp has been driving a narrative as to how he was the one who has done everything. If you look at the campaign of Baramati specifically closely, it was Ajit Pawar. It looked like Ajit Pawar was the contestant. Sumitra Pawar's speeches, the virality of them, the presence on social media, it wasn't as loud as Ajit Pawar's was, because he was technically campaigning for his wife and his prestige seat. On the other hand, there were a lot of allegations from Supriya Sure's party, which is the NCP Sharad Pawar, about vote tampering, about lots of complaints that they wrote to the election commission about in the Baramati constituency and also in the Ahmednagar constituency in the fourth phase, as to how people are being threatened against voting for Supriya, campaigning for her, etc. Even there was an incident where the CCTV cameras were off at one of the polling booths in Ahmednagar for 45 minutes, a video of which the NCP shared on its Twitter and sent it to the election commission, etc. But we don't know what action has been taken. But speaking of the voters, the loyal Pawar family voters are definitely divided. The people who saw the Pawars as the NCP, you speak to both sides, they will support different factions, but there is one consensus that we hope that the family comes back together someday again.
Aditya, my last question before we run out of time, right? I do want to ask you about the U-turn that the Prime Minister has taken in the last 24 hours. The internet is just losing its mind over it, right? Because he did an interview yesterday in which he said, "Where did I say Hindu Muslim? I've never done it. I don't deserve to be in public life if I'm doing Hindu Muslim." And he actually said what he meant by saying people with more children is actually poor households. He was not making a reference to, to Muslim households. Do you see this as a reaction to something on the ground? Like, what's going on? What's your theory about what's going on?
I mean, one attributes a lot of intelligence to the Prime Minister. We really, I mean, he's of course a campaigner par excellence and someone, we always feel that if PM Modi is saying something, there is some calculation behind it. But a couple of statements in the last 10 days have really been difficult to explain. The Adani Ambani jibe at Rahul Gandhi, even core BJP supporters were confused as to how to take this forward. And now this entire U-turn on Muslims. I mean, communal sentiment isn't something that can be, turned on and off like a light switch. So maybe I think what I can guess is that the areas where communal polarization could have given more dividends, those areas have already voted, such as Western Uttar Pradesh, such as coastal Karnataka, such as northern Bengal. And now the areas which are going to vote are areas where a more development-oriented narrative may work. For instance, Eastern UP, even at BJP's peak, they weren't able to polarize Eastern UP. They weren't able to polarize Southern Bengal. So probably, I mean, this is just thinking out aloud. Maybe this could be the only reason behind this sort of recalibration from the Prime Minister.
But do you think that would work? Do you think anyone who is put off by polarization will be convinced by this statement?
See, who is the targeted audience who get polarized? One is, of course, the BJP voter who they want to sort of polarize in their favor. And the other is the anti-BJP voter, mainly minorities, some people in the majority. I don't think that is going to change either side. I think Prime Minister only wants the other side not to be coming out in such large numbers just to defeat the BJP and not make defeating BJP their main issue. I think that is the only explanation. For instance, a voter in West Bengal who might be voting just to defeat the BJP, maybe take instead of voting for the TMC, which you would have done tactically, go and vote for your left Congress candidate whom you like, instead of just voting to defeat the BJP. This is the only possible calculation I can think of.
Ishwar, you look like you want to say something. Go ahead.
I'm really, I don't know it. I agree with Aditya. It's quite, you follow these trends on social media and it's quite unusual.
Yeah.
And there is this one thing that a lot of people are saying, which they say it, but they cannot explain, is the fact that kuch to chal raha hai. Now, what they mean by that kuch to chal raha hai, is that an undercurrent? Is there something which is going to happen? Nobody is able to explain. But then, yes, the day the Ambani Adani comment came out, that day the statement kuch to chal raha hai felt very believable. But again, there is not a concrete explanation for that.
Well, so very quickly, Aditya, we've had Yogendra Yadav, I think, on Rajdeep's show talk about how he doesn't expect the BJP to make the halfway mark, if I'm not mistaken. He expects, I think, the NDA will perhaps be able to cobble together the halfway mark, but the BJP by itself will not. So that's sub 270 now. But are you hearing similar estimates? Are you hearing sub 300 estimates? What is going on?
I think the Satta Bazaar has recalibrated their prediction from 290 for BJP to around 300. So the Satta Bazaar, which had been showing a BJP downslide for the last two phases, has suddenly said that no, BJP is probably doing better than that. So this is what the betting market is saying now. I think it all boils down to three states: Uttar Pradesh, West Bengal, and Odisha. If the BJP is able to, I mean, BJP is going to lose some seats in the states it swept last time, because there is no way it can gain. And we do know that Rajasthan hasn't gone as well for BJP, and Haryana is not going to go as well for the BJP. So Karnataka has also not gone well for the BJP. Maharashtra is not going well for the BJP. So these are states BJP is certain to lose seats. Now, can they make up for those losses in West Bengal, Odisha, and Uttar Pradesh? That I think everything will boil down to this calculation.
Okay, so it's very interesting. When we started off, Aditya, you and I were talking about how it seemed like a open and shut case for the Prime Minister, and the fact that he had started this entire campaign. India Bloc seemed really lost at that point. They didn't have a cohesive message they were putting out, but they seem different now, right? There's a little bit of spring in their step.
Yeah, but sometimes it's also deceptive, because like Congress is a party that sort of, it's like a giant which comes it comes to life just when elections are announced. BJP on the other hand is a machine which continues working for the entire 5 years, 24/7. So obviously, when closer to polling, it appears that that Congress is picking up, and the momentum is with the Congress, when BJP has practically ensured its victory in the months that preceded. So it can be deceptive also, but yeah, I think we don't have a Pulwama kind of wave this time that gave BJP such a sweep last time. So in absence of such a factor, it does appear they might lose some ground.
Yeah, that's also true. So Congress has in the past snatched, victory from the jaws of defeat, and defeat from the jaws of victory as well, like they've done in Telangana, which we didn't expect them to do, and the other way around. But it's three more phases. Anything is possible still, or does it seem right now that there's a pattern that we're seeing?
Ishwar, what's your sense on Maharashtra? Is any alliance crossing 30 out of 48?
Well, it is being said, surveys are saying it, sources from the ground are saying it, senior journalists from the state are saying it, that the Mahavikas Aghadi is expected to log in at least 20 seats. Certain surveys have given above 35, but that looks very far-fetched as of now. The trouble is, too many equations have changed in too many seats. Like, for example, in a seat like Aurangabad, where Mr. Imtiaz Jalil was the only person from the AIMM other than Mr. Owaisi who won last time. There were only two other players that he was dealing with. This time there are four other players that he's dealing with, along with a factor of Shiv Sena versus Shiv Sena on his seat. At least 3 seats of Bombay are seeing the Shiv Sena versus Shiv Sena fight. So it's not really nothing can be said concretely. For example, even something like a Baramati, which was always a given to the Pawars, veteran journalists from the region are saying, if I tell you something today, I can't promise you to stay the same tomorrow. So let's talk after the voting is done. It's very difficult to gauge, especially a state like Maharashtra.
Yeah. So I'm going to leave it there. But last interesting point I want to note is that when the Prime Minister was giving an interview to Times Now, he sort of teared up a little bit and said, "Ma Ganga ne mujhe god liya hai." So is he building himself into a Bhishma Pitama sort of idea into this election? Maybe that's another thing to keep an eye on, because he's giving a lot of interviews. And I find it really interesting, the things that are being said in these interviews. Aditya, Nishwa, thank you so much for hanging out and telling us everything you found on the ground over the last 1 week. We're going to continue, of course, until this election rounds up on the 4th of June. But thanks to our audience for joining us. We're coming back in about 5 minutes with Sanjay Hegde. We're going to talk about the big news click verdict that came out of Supreme Court. We'll break that down legally. That's in about 2 or 3 minutes at 7 o'clock. So stay with us and join that live as well. Thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe, guys. Always.